For this year's general election, registered voters need to watch for their ballots arriving by mail in mid-October. Following the instructions, seal your ballot in the envelope provided and be sure to sign the back.
Envelopes without your signature will not be accepted.
Look for your free elections guide in the newspaper or at locations statewide. There are no polling places, so be sure to mail your ballot by October 27.
Hawaii votes by mail.
Good morning, Hawaii. It is October 21st. This is Spotlight Hawaii here on the platforms of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. I'm Ryan Kalei-Suji, joined by Yanji Denise, and this, again, is a conversation brought to you by the Office of Elections. We know, as that ad just shows, that ballots are currently out there for those of you who are voting by mail and are registered to vote, and some simple instructions there. We're going to actually talk a little bit more about the elections coming up in our next episode on Friday. But today, Angie, we're going to talk about something that always gets a lot of attention and a lot of viewer engagement.
That's right. We are talking to the head of the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, Anne Perreira-Eustaquio. She is joining us this morning to give us the latest numbers when it comes to unemployment benefits, how many people are receiving them, how many claims they're getting. We know, Ryan, that this system was really overwhelmed back in March. They've made a lot of steps, including call centers, and we understand also a new adjudication center that they're launching today. So we'll be talking all about that. I see the comments flowing in. So good morning, Anne. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Can you give us a snapshot of the latest numbers? What are you seeing in terms of people filing? Have those numbers leveled off, or are we still seeing a lot of new claims?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So with the numbers, we are trying to look at the numbers a little differently than we've looked at them before. Before, we were giving totals of just those individuals who had not received what we call a first payment. But we're seeing more and more individuals who receive what we call separation issues or just an eligibility issue attached to their claim on a weekly basis when they come in and file their weekly claim certifications. So we're seeing more and more of those outstanding payments. So an individual will be coming in, they'll be filing, they'll be receiving payments, and then all of a sudden their payments stop. It's because an issue was created during their weekly claim certification. As for the numbers, they have come down somewhat. Of course, the numbers were very, very high in the beginning, but we're still seeing a large amount of individuals now being permanently laid off, so their status is being changed, or businesses who have hung on for all this time have not been able to succeed, so they're starting to lay off now.
You know, we're getting a lot of questions about people waiting for adjudicators to contact them. But you folks are actually launching something today. If you can share a little bit more information about how that may assist those who are asking these adjudication questions. Oh, I think we actually lost your audio there.
I think we lost your audio. Can you try again?
There we go.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Gotcha.
Sorry.
Got it.
Sorry about that. So we are going to be having 100 adjudicators come on board today to start working on adjudication issues. So that's what's holding up a lot of claims right now. We have those adjudication issues for separation. Those are the voluntarily left issues or the misconduct issues. We also have a lot of what we call DNAs, did not accept. So claimants are being called back to work or being provided with some hours during a week and they are not accepting for some reason or another. These adjudicators will come on board. They'll be calling claimants. So please answer your phone. It should be coming from an 808 number. Hopefully it doesn't say scam or spam on your phone. Sometimes it gets picked up as that. So if you don't recognize the number, please pick it up anyway. It might be us if you are waiting for someone to call you in regards to your unemployment insurance claim, and they will be providing you with the information on why your claim was held up, obtain fact-finding from you as well as your past employer, and making some determinations on whether you're eligible or not.
100 adjudicators is quite a few. How many claims are in this sort of limbo right now? I'm seeing a lot of people saying, I've been waiting, but do you know, sort of how many cases these 100 folks will have to start to get through?
So we could have individual claimants have 10, 20 outstanding issues individually. So we have over 200,000 claims that were filed. Within any point in time, you could have been an issue that was created for a particular week, and then you started getting paid again. So we have thousands and thousands of issues outstanding. It could be just holding up 1 week. It could be holding up your whole claim. It just really depends on where that issue was created, how it was created, and when it was created.
You know, a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago now, that you folks stood up the call center in an effort to sort of get through some of the questions and to provide that service for those that are having any issues with their claims. We do know that there still is a sort of a backlog in getting to all these people. Many people are still waiting and trying to get through. Can you provide an update on the call center and where you folks are at right now with that?
Yes. So initially, we had a lot of problems with the call center in regards to robocalling, and the contractor was able to mitigate that problem. We can't stop the robocalls. They're going to come in whether we, but no matter what we do, but they can stop them from actually entering the queue. And that's what they've been able to do. So there's still competition to get through the lines, but once you get into the queue, a claimant shouldn't be dropped off like they used to be in the beginning. And we have, according to the contractor, about 8 to 9,000 distinct callers a day. So unique callers. So we know that the callers are coming in, but we only have 200 agents online, and they cannot handle that many calls. So you're still going to have callers who can't get in on a particular day. But I can tell you we are seeing close to 2,000 calls come in that we're able to pick up and answer, and they're being able to give them some relief. If claimants are calling in regards to an adjudication issue, which we've noticed a lot of claimants are, this call center won't be able to help them. They can't clean up their claim if it's an adjudication issue. All they're going to be told is, we could take your name and number and let them know you're waiting for your claim to be adjudicated.
Okay, let's get to some of the questions. Kanoilani Franco at 1031 has a question, and I'm seeing this referred to in a lot of the other questions already. She says, aloha, I've exhausted my UI and PEUC benefits. When is the EB20 active? Can you tell us a little bit more about EB20? Because I'm seeing a lot of EB20 questions.
Okay, so initially, regular unemployment is for 26 weeks, so that's 6 months. Once you exhaust your 26 weeks, you can go on what we call PEUC, the Pandemic Extended Unemployment Compensation, and that was for 13 weeks. Once you exhaust your PEUC, there is another extended program called EB20, Extended Benefits. Hawaii triggered on EB. It is a program that was in existence for several years now. We have not yet triggered on. We have for now with this pandemic, and it's also for 13 weeks. We are launching the EB program next week. So claimants who have exhausted PEUC will be able to come on next week, and they'll see a button just like they did for PEUC. They'll see an EB button. They'll also get in the mail a notice letting them know that they could qualify for EB and to go on and apply. So they'll have to answer questions on an application just like they did for PEUC, and we'll process those claims just like we did for PEUC.
And what's the dollar value of the EB20 benefit? How much money can they receive on that?
So the dollar value is your same weekly benefit amount you received on your regular claim and your PEUC claim. It is only for 13 weeks, and then once you exhaust EB, currently, there's no other benefits to go on to unless you were affected by the pandemic, and PUA is still in place until the end of the year. And if you exhaust EB prior to the end of the year, you may be also able to qualify for PUA.
Okay, we have another question that came in that's asking to please advise directive steps on PEUC approvals. Example, do claim examiners work on the first claimants?
Okay, so in regards to PEUC, it's just like you're filing a brand new claim. So when you came in and filed a claim for your regular unemployment insurance benefits, there was a lag process so that we could verify the claim, make sure you qualify for the claim, and get you on board. That's the exact same thing for PEUC. So there is a 14 to 21 day lag from when you exhausted your regular claim to being eligible for PEUC. And so once you come on and you apply, make sure you apply for all your back weeks so that we start you off with PEUC from the exact week after you exhaust your regular claim. And 21 days 14 to 21 days after that, you should start seeing your processing of your PEUC claim.
Okay, and there's a lot of questions about time frame and just on that PEUC and then also EB20. Let's say, there is that lag. Do you get paid for that lag time or do you only get paid for right when it starts? And the same for EB20.
So I'm sorry, yes, you get paid for the whole lag time. So when your claim ends for your regular 26 weeks of benefits, the very next week you qualify for PEUC. We can't pay it right away because of the processing time, but we will backdate your claim and you will be paid from the first week of eligibility for PEUC.
And is that also true for EB20?
That's correct.
Okay.
Another question, of course, that we had talked about was this is definitely a difficult time, obviously, for those who are unemployed, but we're also experiencing and hearing about how employers themselves are also having to deal with this and make sure that they have, buying into the insurance and the things that the employer has to do. What sort of things are you hearing on the employer standpoint about where they're at in dealing with this pandemic?
Right. So employers as well, have been highly affected by this pandemic. They're trying as hard as they can to keep their employees on board as they pay unemployment insurance benefits through the unemployment insurance trust fund. That trust fund needs to be replenished. Employers are the only ones who normally replenish that trust fund. Employees think that there is a deductibility of unemployment insurance benefits that come out of their pay, but that's not true. Unemployment insurance is not an employee-based tax. It's an employer-based tax. So employers need to pay it on a quarterly basis. And right now we are borrowing from USDOL to make benefits to claimants because the trust fund has gone into a negative. We have now currently borrowed $640 million from U.S. Department of Labor. We anticipate borrowing until the end of December between $1 and $1.2 billion in order to pay out benefits. We anticipate to continue to borrow after January, and the employers are going to be responsible for paying, for replenishing that fund so that we can continue to pay benefits to claimants.
What are you hearing in terms of, will there be enough money if employers are the ones who are funding this, but we're seeing a lot of businesses shut down? Is the program going to run out of money?
So it's hard to explain because we don't really run out of money. We can borrow. We continue to borrow. So we've essentially run out of money in the trust fund. The trust fund has gone to a negative. We've already borrowed $640 million from USDOL. They will continue to let us borrow so that we can pay out benefits to claimants. But we will have to pay that loan back and with interest. And employers will have to pay that loan back. And if we can't pay that loan back from collecting taxes from employers, employers will then lose what we call the FUTA tax credit. So right now, all states who participate in this unemployment insurance program and follow the rules and regulations of the feds and are in compliance with federal regulations receive a FUTA tax credit. We could lose that FUTA tax credit if we cannot pay our loan back in time.
We have a question that I know has come up in the past, but we know that it's one that many people still continue to ask. And this is from Patricia saying, if relocating from the mainland and had to leave a job to relocate because of COVID, can I claim a UI here in Hawaii? Can you explain a little bit about those who have had to relocate, maybe who worked in Hawaii and moved back to the mainland, or vice versa in this situation for those who moved into the state?
Correct. So we have individuals who are here from the mainland in Hawaii who file what we call a liable claim, and then individuals who move from Hawaii to the mainland and we file an intra-claim. So these two different types of claims still utilize either wages in another state or wages in Hawaii. If you file a Hawaii claim and you have wages in Hawaii, then you would receive what we call the weekly benefit amount in Hawaii that you qualify for. So yes, you're still eligible. You still have to follow the rules and regulations of the state you move to in order to look for work or any of the eligibility requirements. So in Hawaii, right now, we've waived the look for work requirement, but in some of the other states, they have not. So if you move to a state that has not waived that requirement, you have to make sure that you continue to follow their rules and look for work in the state that you're in.
So who's actually paying that benefit then? Is Hawaii paying that benefit, or the state that you moved to paying that benefit?
If the wages were earned in Hawaii, Hawaii is paying that benefit.
Okay, let's get to another question here. Charles Peters at 1040 says, I'm back to work, which is great. Congratulations, Charles. Is there anything I need to do to my UI claims?
So no, you just stop filing. So normally you would file weekly claim certifications to let us know that you're still unemployed and you still haven't found work and you still need to receive benefits for that week. At this point, you can stop filing. Do not file a weekly claim certification, and eventually your account will go inactive. And if you had to come back in and you're still within your benefit year and you haven't exhausted your benefits and you still have some funds within your unemployment insurance account, you can come in and reopen your claim.
You know, another, of course, obstacle that the department has had to overcome and stand up were the pool claims. Of course, you know, these are for those who didn't qualify under that umbrella of the others. What is sort of the status on pool right now? Are you continuing to see a steady flow of people applying, and how long is that? How long will that service and program continue to last?
So I'm not sure if you're familiar that the pool program was not directly worked on by the Department of Labor initially, and then the Department of Labor took it over sometime in, I believe, July. And since then, we've been able to work on the backlog. So we've cleaned up majority of the claims. We do still have a lot of claims coming in. A lot of that is fraud, and we know it is because claimants that apply are not verifying their identity verification because they just don't have the ability to because it's fraud. But what we're working on right now, which is pretty heavy workload, is the appeals. So determinations have been made early on in the program. Since department took it over, we're re-looking at those determinations and making redeterminations and seeing if we can actually make payments to individuals who are denied and they won't have to go to an appeal. So that's what we're working on right now.
You know, you mentioned fraud. I'm curious to know if you have any idea of how much fraud has been committed and how much fraud has been prevented by your agency. Do you have any, you know, if you look at the numbers, how many of the claims are fraudulent?
I don't have those numbers right now for you, but there's quite a bit of fraud, especially in PUA. We are noticing more recently in the past month and a half in regular unemployment, the fraud has ticked up quite a bit. These fraudulent claims are being handed over to the FBI, to the Office of Inspector General, and to our AG's office, and they are moving forward with prosecuting individuals they can find that committed the fraud.
You know, early on, of course, before the pandemic happened, the unemployment office was something, a place where people could physically come to and you know, get questions asked and work on paperwork and things of that nature. And obviously, COVID-19 has changed that dramatically. Is there any plans to sort of reopen some sort of in-person filing or a place where people can go to see and work with someone directly?
So we are looking at a new normal here at the Department of Labor. We're looking to transition at some point. Right now, there's no immediate plans to open the building. I am personally quite concerned about the safety of everyone, not just our workers, but of the claimants, because there's still such a huge backlog that we would probably have a mob of people here. And I'm also concerned about the health and the health of my staff. I'm very concerned that if one individual were to be infected with COVID, everyone would have to stay home within that office and the workload would not get done. And I am trying to keep everyone safe and healthy and every day come to work so that we can service as many claimants as we possibly can.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about something on the employer side, which is the WARN notices. Yes. These are companies that let you know, hey, we're going out of business. Can you tell us about the flow of WARN notices you're receiving and what that tells us about the rest of the year and beyond in terms of the employment landscape here in the islands?
Right. So we were hoping at this point we would start to see employers starting to level off their businesses, being able to get back to work, open up the economy, bring employees back on, and start to move towards reviving their business and the workplace. We have seen otherwise. We have seen more and more warn notices come in from employers letting us know that by the end of the year, more and more companies will be closing. They've done all they can through these tough and trying times. They try to keep business going as long as they possibly could, and they're going to start at least downsizing, if not closing permanently. And we're seeing more of that. And so we know that there is going to be a heavy workload come the end of the year or the beginning of the new year.
And as the director of this department, I mean, you're already trying to manage that. Is that something that you folks are maybe anticipating for? I mean, how do you plan for even more of this potential layoffs and more people coming on to unemployment from a structural standpoint and trying to manage that?
Yep. So that's something we're really, really going to have to start looking at. We're looking at it already. We know that come the end of the year, we're going to lose our call center, because the funding to run the call center was from CARES funding. And so that expires at the end of the year. The adjudication team that we're bringing on today will also be done by the end of the year, because that's being paid for with CARES funding as well. We are continuing to hire. Hiring has been pretty tough. We've hired over 85 individuals since we started this process. We've lost a third of those individuals because it's just a tough job. I mean, it's hard to learn. There's lots of regulations and statutes that you have to know. And, we have a lot of claimants who are at this point really frustrated, right? I mean, they haven't been paid. They're waiting for their payments. They want us to make determinations, and they get a little anxious when they get on the phone. And sometimes it's hard to be able to listen to the stories of the real impact it's making to families. And some individuals can't handle that type of work. It's tough. It's hard on the heart, I have to say. And so we're continuing to hire. We're hopefully going to be hiring more and more individuals come the new year so that we can start bringing them on board now. And once the new year comes around, they'll know what to do. They'll be experienced. They'll be able to handle the workload when we lose the contractor at the end of the year.
I want to make sure I'm clear, because there's a bunch of questions about what programs are available and what programs kind of expire at the end of the year. So unemployment benefits, if you were laid off, let's say last week, those go into 2021. But what about PEUC? What about PUA? And what about the EB-20?
Right. So you're correct. Unemployment insurance benefits, you can collect up to 26 weeks. So if you're just starting your benefits now, you have 26 weeks of payments. Once you exhaust your 26 weeks, you have PEUC. PEUC ends on December 26th. So that's the last payable week here in Hawaii, December 26th. And that's for 13 weeks. So if you're on PEUC and you only used up 10, by December 26th, you'll lose the last 3 weeks. You can't collect anything after December 26th right now, unless additional congressional action is taken to extend the PEUC program. But then we have EB. So EB kicked in. EB does not kick off until we trigger off. And in order for Hawaii to trigger off, our unemployment rate has to go below 5%. We know that is not happening anytime soon. So EB will be around for a while, but EB is only for 13 weeks. So once you exhaust your EB of 13 weeks, the only other option is PUA, but PUA as well ends on December 26th. That's your last payable week. And so if you don't collect all of your regular PEUC and PUA by December 26th, you won't be able to collect any of those benefits after December 26th.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. And also you mentioned the unemployment rate. Do you know what the unemployment rate is right now in Hawaii?
Yes, 13% right now. So we're nowhere near 5%.
Okay. Another question that we did get was for those who, filed and say their claims it says pending and they were still waiting for some sort of contact or some sort of determination on their claim, but now they found work and now they are continuing, they do have a steady income. What happens to those claims that are still pending? Will they be able to receive some of those benefits even though they are now currently employed?
Yes, they definitely will. So we will still continue to address those issues that are pending. Even if they're back to work, they're due those earnings if they qualify and they're eligible and they're not disqualified, they're due those payments. So with EB as well as PEUC, as well as the FPUC program, if your claim goes back to those times when we were still paying out FPUC, but it hasn't yet been determined, you can still receive those benefits after December 26, as long as it's weeks earned on eligibility before December 26. It's only what we call LWA, the Lost Wage Assistance Program, that you won't be able to collect those benefits once that program ends.
Lisanne Moniz says, take care of the pending UIs, please. I said, please. So she's trying to be polite today. But there are some questions about who is sort of taking priority. Obviously, you only have so many people in there. You said that you get up to, I think you said 8,000 to 9,000 calls, unique calls, and you're obviously only able to answer 2,000 at a time. And I'd imagine that the workflow, is the same when it comes to emails and whatnot. Are you giving priority in terms of dates, or how do people know where they are kind of in the line of getting a response?
Right. So what we're looking at the internal adjudicators, they are calling claimants who have the oldest claims. So the ones who haven't been paid the oldest weeks, that's what we're trying to look at. And those are the claims we're trying to work on first. And the adjudication team that's coming on today, we're going to have them start off looking at all of what we call the DNAs, that did not accept works. So all those claimants whose payments had stopped midterm, or they hadn't received payments in midway and then started receiving payments again, those adjudicators will be looking at those types of issues.
Okay. Well, our time here is wrapping up. We always get so many questions from the audience. We thank everybody for entering them, and we thank you, of course, for your time. But we want to allow you the opportunity, just some final thoughts and statements as you sort of move into the end of the year. What are some of the things that you folks are working on, and any final thoughts then, and things that you want to express to the viewers watching here today?
Yeah, so I know there's a lot of frustration out there. I know claimants are waiting. I could tell you that the staff is working every day, 7 days a week, long hours, overtime, just to get it done. We hope I know it's been a long time, but we hope you could be patient. We are trying the best that we possibly can. We're trying to bring on new initiatives. I'm happy to announce that with PUA, we've gotten through the hardest part of it, and we're making now redeterminations that we've heard helped so far a lot of individuals who were denied. So hang in there. We're trying. We're bringing on the adjudicators. We hope to have much more claims wrapped up and cleaned up much more quickly. And I'm hoping the economy will improve so everyone can go back to work.
All right. Thank you so much, Director, for joining us and taking the time to answer some of these questions specifically. We know that you're very busy, but we certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. This is a great venue to get the word out to the claimants, because I know they all need to know.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kanoilani Franco saying thank you to the director. You've explained each question in detail and with clarity. Your help is much appreciated. I think that she really did drill down on some of the details, especially in looking at what programs expire at the end of the year. So much of this is tied to the CARES funding, and it is a little nerve-wracking to hear that the call center will be going away, and even the extra 100 adjudicators that have been hired on and start work today. That is all funded through CARES Act money, which obviously is intended to be spent before the end of this year. I know some people had some questions about what programs or when. She went into that all in detail. So as soon as this broadcast is over, you can go back and watch her explain step by step what is available when and when it expires. Also, if you have any friends or family who are struggling with this, please share this video with them, share it on your social media, because she's right. This is a program where we get to do a lot of back and forth, and you get to drill down on some of the issues that I know a lot of people are really frustrated with right now.
Yeah, but good news to hear that they will be bringing on those extra adjudicators, because initially when we started the program, that was sort of the question that kept coming through, was asking questions about the adjudicator process and getting people to call them. So hopefully that will help to alleviate some of the pressure with those additional adjudicators that are coming on board today. So timely to have her on and to kind of explain through that in process. But also a sobering statistic when you look at some of the businesses that could expect it to be closing at the end of the year. A lot of these employers also, as she explained, of course, employees are suffering and those who are unemployed, but employers are also having to make some very difficult decisions about how to stay in business and how to keep moving forward during these times. And we could potentially see more people filing for unemployment as as we ring in the new year without CARES Act money. And so we'll see also what the federal government does, if there is any additional support coming down the pipeline. But once again, it was a great way, I think, to kind of answer some of those specific questions out there that many people are still trying to get resolved.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's true. The WARN notices, the Unemployment Office, Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, gets those WARN notices from businesses to let them know, hey, we're going to go out of business. And she says that she's getting a steady flow of those, saying that by the end of the year, a lot of those businesses that have been hanging on by a thread will permanently shut down. They are anticipating that wave of new unemployment claims to be coming in. Hard to believe, only 10 weeks left in the year. So we're looking at 2021, and hopefully it's a lot better than 2020. I see a lot of questions, and we've seen throughout, about the restaurant card program. That's actually not under her office. That falls under the state. Josh Green is joining us on Monday, and we will be asking him about the restaurant card program, about how that's going, and some of the issues that some of you are describing. So we're going to get to that on Monday, but Anne's really not the one to answer that question.
Yeah, we actually heard from the governor on Monday about those questions, saying that they recognize that there were some people who were having some issues with them and that they were trying their best to kind of get through. His advice for those that are having issues with the restaurant card program is to go to their website. There is a contact us portion on there that they are trying to help to facilitate any of those questions and those malfunctioning cards, and getting new cards out to those that may be experiencing any sort of difficulties with that. So again, encourage you to kind of go over there and check that out. On Friday, we continue on with a conversation with I think something that many people often don't think about, and that is, of course, our frontline workers, specifically our EMS teams out there.
Yeah, they've really had to change how they're working, because obviously any call that they respond to could be a COVID-19 call, even if it's just, someone having chest pains, for instance. They have to treat that person as if they've had COVID. So, how is that working? This is an agency that was already stretched very thin before the pandemic. So we're going to be talking to a paramedic along with Dr. Jim Ireland, who is the head of that agency. And then in the second half of Friday's broadcast, we're going to be talking to Scott Nago. He, of course, is the head of the Office of Elections. Just today, voting service centers opened here in Hawaii. That's for in-person voting, for same-day voter registration, and to collect ballots. So we're going to be talking, if for some reason, as much as we've been telling you to register to vote, if you did not register to vote, there is still a way to vote. And we know so many of you want your voices heard. So we're going to talk to Scott Nago about all of that, and to talk about all the ballots they've already received.
Yeah, we're seeing record number of voting throughout the country. And of course, this is the first time Hawaii is participating in that mail-in voting that actually was planned for before this year happened and this pandemic. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that, about those numbers, and of course, taking any questions that you may have. We're excited to continue on this conversation next week as well. As Yunji said, Lieutenant Governor will be joining us next week, and we look forward to that conversation. Always someone that attracts a lot of questions and a lot of engagement, especially now with the reopening of Hawaii and trans-Pacific travel. We'll get to more questions about the pre-testing and efforts that the state is making there as well. So until Friday, we want to thank, of course, our sponsors at the Office of Elections for allowing us to continue to have this conversation. And we'll see you right back here on Friday at 10:30 on Spotlight Hawaii. Aloha.
Aloha.
For this year's general election, registered voters need to watch for their ballots arriving by mail in mid-October. Following the instructions, seal your ballot in the envelope provided and be sure to sign the back.
Envelopes without your signature will not be accepted.
Look for your free elections guide in the newspaper or at locations statewide. There are no polling places, so be sure to mail your ballot by October 27.
Hawaii votes by mail.